after we're done. So we aren't going to talk about every slide, but if you come back and say, did she talk about something that was really good for this? You can come back and you'll see the slides that'll help you remember why we liked it. So that's what those are for. So if you have trouble easily finding what you need, and as you move forward, staying up with the things that are important to you, you're not alone. This is just an example of how much information is really exploding, especially over the last 5 years. 2,000 to 4,000 new citations are added to PubMed daily. That's a lot of new citations. Additionally, the science, technical, and medical journals, that subset of journals, now there are 28,000 English peer-reviewed journals being published, and they launch 500 or more every year. Not to mention the fact that we have open access journals, and right now the main index of those has over 10,000. They're cracking down on some of the bad ones, and so it may go down a little bit. But with that much stuff, you really need to understand that you're going to be making choices when you search, and I'm going to try to help you figure out the right ways to get to what you need quickly. So we're going to start with choosing the right resource. We're going to talk a little bit about how databases work, because once you understand that, you'll be able to transfer back and forth your knowledge to efficiently search something new if you have to. And with time, I'm going to talk about just those three. And if we have time, I'll talk a little bit about metrics. And if we don't, this is just here. So hi, come on in. We just started. Hi, come on in.
Sorry for all cords snaked across the. So, and remind me of your name, Pauline? Pauline. Have you been here yet?
Not for this summer.
Okay, all right.
No, but I'm in
Another person with dark blonde hair who I think I've met before. So welcome, Pauline.
So,
This is Lee Vucovich from
Hi.
Mr. Hill.
And where are you?
School of Nursing.
Okay, great.
Pre-doc?
Yeah.
Pre-doc, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Lee is just getting started, so you're at the right time.
Right, and I'll be talking today about PubMed, Embase, and Scopus, which we'll use. I'm not discussing CINAHL. It works the same way as PubMed and Embase, so as long as you understand one of those. What I recommend to people is you learn one pretty well. For most of you, it'll be PubMed, and also for nursing, you also need to learn CINAHL. Because once you understand the structure and how to make things work, you can find it on the interface of any database that works the same way, including some of the pharmacological ones. I haven't looked at IPA in years, but it's built on the same principle as PubMed. So the first take-home point we have is that when you want to get one of our resources, you need to go through our webpage. This would be equally true at Auburn, probably with PubMed. The place where that breaks down the most is because PubMed's available. People go to PubMed anyway, they Google it or something, and if you're not in our IP range, you're not going to see the customization that we put in for you, and I'm going to show you that today. Hi, come on in.
Hi there. How are you, Michelle? Good. This is Michelle Williams.
Hi, Michelle. And what program are you with?
I'm a postdoc in the Hosier program
In the which?
in the core.
Oh, okay, great. Well, welcome. We're just getting started, kind of going through an overview. Remember to go through the library website to get to PubMed. That's the most important thing I've said so far. So this is just a screenshot of a guide that I maintain. You can get to it from the guide section of the library's homepage. And on the bottom left-hand side of the front page, these slides will be posted. Melissa also posts them. And all the links in the slides, almost every screenshot, is a live link back to the resource, so you don't have to worry about so much how to get there. Okay, let's start by talking about what kind of information you need. So basically in medicine, we just have one way to separate needs is by background and foreground information. Have you all heard that before? Right, and background information is general clinical questions generally that are about a condition or a test or a disorder that are static over time. So course, presentation, general treatment strategies, anatomy, physiology, pathology, pharmacology, and the best places to find these are in books, e-books, which includes things like UpToDate, we'll talk about in the next slide, and narrative reviews. But if you try to find a narrative review in PubMed, you will be mired in PubMed with all those 75,000 reviews on tiny little topics, and you'll spend an hour before you find one. So start here for clinical questions. And on our website, we have ebooks pulled out separately because they're so popular. And the catalog is where you'll find other books. Here at Lister Hill, we have an old school catalog. We're hoping to upgrade it with our new dean within the next year or so. You can look by subject, you can look by title, you can look by author. But if you make anything complicated, it's not coming up. At Auburn, you have an amazing discovery tool, which will bring your ebooks and books in if you look on a subject, and you'll do that and then narrow to the left probably. And so all you do is put whatever you want to see, like Brain Atlas or biostatistics or whatever in this one. If you don't find anything, try this one. We are in the process of unifying all this stuff when we get our new catalog. And the important thing is, once you pull the page up, this is how you read it. You click on View. Do not pay any attention to this stuff over here that we can't get out of our old school catalog. Just click on View and you'll be able to read it. So you can get there in a couple clicks. You may have to do something else en route, but it will open for you. You do not need to have any kind of identification on campus, off campus, laser ID and password, and you'll recognize that authentication box. Okay, so if you have clinical questions, and they can be fairly specific, although if they are also sort of common, like a medication for a diabetic patient who also has neuropathy or something like that, you use evidence-based clinical summaries. Now, how many of you have seen UpToDate? Yeah, most of you have. Do you do clinical work? Probably not. So this isn't as important to you. I think it's useful. I'm not going to demonstrate it, but on that link below, if you want a demonstration, that's the UpToDate demonstration. What you do is you look up your clinical problem. On the right-hand side, it narrows it down, and it gives you a summary of recommendations and current journals that support it. Some of it is more evidence-based than others, and I think all medical students and all residents at any university that have it, use it. It's great. It's a great resource. At Auburn, you do not have it, so you might want to look at it here, just play around to get a sense of what it is, because it is useful in the clinical field. Dynamed, have any of you seen Dynamed? I'm going to open it up and just show you what it has to offer, because it is an evidence-based clinical summary. I will say the residents love it, and a lot of the nurses in the advanced nursing program swear by it. So I'm just going to throw in lupus as an example so you can see what it offers if you haven't seen it. So it gives you these choices, so I'm just going to choose this. The nice thing is lupus, SLE, and that whole long name all map to the same thing. And so you can see there's a lot of things here you can go directly to if you're looking for treatment, and I'm going to show you that one in a minute. What's really interesting is general information, which just really gives you all background kind of stuff, front and center. That's what you want. And this is by far the only place that I know that it's easy to get incidence and prevalence, which sometimes you're expected to do if you're doing a morning report or something like that. Everything in Dynamed is associated with evidence. There's very little editorial advice. They give you the evidence and let you make up your mind. That's a difference from UpToDate. But when you get into treatment, I'll just kind of show you. Once you get into the treatment, they have a huge overview, and then they go into specifics. Once you get into specifics, they will give you the level of evidence, and they will also give you, if there is a article to support it, it will be linked right here. so I don't see it lacking direct evidence. They give you a lot of information that you can go to figure out what you want to do. But the best is when I get to these kinds of things. Both of these databases have drugs from really good sources, so a lot of people just throw in their drug if they don't know what it is and have to date to get an answer. And the other thing that I really would like you to see is when you come down to guidelines and resources, it is very hard sometimes to find a good evidence-based guideline. And so, United States guidelines, so they pick the best and put them here for you. So often this is something that you need to do if you're doing a case report or something like that. It's very fast, and below it, here are narrative review articles. So if you have to get, and we show this to the nursing students sometimes, they have to give a peer-reviewed article that talks about background information. You can get it in 2 seconds. So, everybody good with that? It's worth a look, I think. Okay, so we're moving on for foreground information, which would be information about a specific patient. Anything you want to know about, processes or your own personal research or outcomes research or whatever you're doing, you're going to use the citation database. These are the ones that are most popular in biomedicine. And on our homepage, the search box sits in the middle of the homepage. You just click on the link you want. You can either enter your search here or go to the native database, which is what I prefer, by clicking here and start searching. And on the right-hand side, this is a guide that we've created that will answer any questions, has all kinds of videos on specific things that are fairly detailed. And if you're really not sure how to start, there's the Ask the Librarian link. And we can help you get started and send you links to specific videos and so forth. Okay, so we're going to start by searching effectively, efficiently, and getting full text. So the first thing I'm going to do, because we probably answer 15 questions a day on I can't get full text in this article, is show you how to get full text anywhere. And what happens, I think, a lot of times is people just, hi, come on in.
Hi, Dr. Sad.
Do you need a chair or are you just going to, okay. So what happens is, like all of us, you come up with something you don't know and often you just Google it, right? And suddenly a PubMed citation comes up and you think, great. And you click on it and there you see your little publisher link and that's great. And then you go here and $60 for 24 hours. Do not pay. Take-home lesson, don't pay at Auburn either. They have a link resolver, it doesn't look like ours, but you do the same thing there as I'm telling you to do here. Don't pay. Okay, so what do you do? While I'm on this page, I copy the article title, I open up the library webpage and paste it into this search box on the home page. Click on Go. Now you'll see you have opened up a record that has the publisher and the UAB article linker link. The reason you didn't have that before is that it didn't recognize you as being part of our people, and so of course they're going to charge you. If you go through that article linker link, you will be asked to authenticate off campus or on campus. In many of the hospital buildings, for unknown reasons, it doesn't show up. Additionally, we get a lot of full text through other means than the publisher. So you can try the publisher, and if it doesn't work, try article linker. And if we have it, like this one, there you'll see this little article. Click on the article. Sometimes you'll see a bunch of these and pick the one that looks like it's from the publisher or the date range, your article's within that range. Because often we have it from an earlier date, maybe through 2009, and then from 2007 forward or something. So that's all you have to do. And you'll authenticate. And you go to the publisher page, and there'll be a PDF. That whole process will probably take you less than 30 seconds. Now, what if we don't have it? And this does happen sometimes. Although we added a lot of content in January, you should be seeing it a lot less than you had seen it before. You scroll down here to option 2. First time you do this, you're going to have to create an account, a username and password like you do in Google and Yahoo and everything else. After that, you'll just log in. Your form will be completely populated. You'll click submit. At the library, we will look in our print holdings in case we have it. If we do, we'll scan it and put it in your account and send you an email. If not, we'll borrow it from another library, put it in your account and send you an email. Somewhere between 1 and 3 business days. We're trying to get that down by hiring students. And then you can just download it and you got the PDF. So definitely never pay. Any questions on that? Yeah.
I'm just wondering, because I did that sometime for a particular journal, Journal of Cancer Education. I was wondering, like, how can we make requests or suggestions
Yes.
for journals?
Yes, thank you for asking that. When I go online, I'll show you, but on the left-hand side of the homepage in that gray ribbon, there's a place that says Forms, and it's the purchase request form.
Okay.
If you don't remember, click Ask the Librarian and say, I need to make a purchase request, and they'll send you a link. And we take those very seriously. We create a list that we go through when the budget is approved, and that is that we buy the first, we are user-centered, so we will buy a request that a user needs. You may be asked a couple questions about your use. And that one, I thought we might have picked up. I think it is already on the wish list, but you should go ahead and ask for it again. And usually we start making decisions on those as soon as we get the budget, which we haven't gotten. And then they start in January, but a lot of them turn it on quickly. So this is a good time to get that request in.
I'm sorry if you covered this, but how much budgeting is there now of the journals into groups? And is there sort of a concatenation, and are they all becoming big conglomerates of one another? I know there's still some one-offs that might
Yeah,
separately.
there are a couple more publishers combined, and I just read an article. I could send that to you in the scholarly kitchen, talking about the independent scholarly publishers, how they can't afford to keep publishing independently, and the trend is going to be to those conglomerates. And we do get Science Direct back. That's why we get more journal coverage. But we try to work with consortia and everything to make it happen. And it's kind of hard right now because the university does not fund us. I think of all our comparable libraries, we're second to the bottom, with only Mississippi being below us. And that's kind of sad for a university. So our dean is working with administration. We're looking, or at least expecting, to have enough money to avoid journal cuts this year and add a few more journals. And we're doing a lot of streamlining internally because that's what we have to do to meet that need going forward.
So there's both the amalgamation of the journals into groups, Science Direct, et cetera.
Right.
And then there's also the networking or the consortia of the universities that get purchase power.
It gives us purchase power. But this year, the average rate of inflation of journals is 5% per journal. The New England Journal of Medicine going up over 100%. So, and when we've had a flat budget for many years, it doesn't take the math to see this is what's happening. So the provost is very committed to helping that all turn around. And with our new dean, we're doing a lot of internal structuring and combining buying power, reducing duplication. I think you'll see us doing much better over the next couple of years in content. That's the front rate and going on. But thank you for asking. Okay, these are other ways people use to full text. Anybody here using the? Okay, do you?
Just to make a library, basically.
Okay, so when you put your things into your EndNote library, if you go into your preferences and set them correctly, EndNote, you can click Find Full Text of those references when you bring it in, and it'll bring the PDF in for you. And that link right below will give you directions. Google Scholar, all you have to do, those of you who use it, is set your preferences under Settings to list your library. And when you do that, on the right-hand side where those PDF links are, if we have online content for that journal, you'll see Find It at Worcester Hill, and it will open up the same article linker page you saw before. So again, how to do that is right on that, and these slides will be posted, and Melissa will be sending them out or posting them. Browsing is a brand new thing we just got, and I'm very excited about it. I can show it to you on my iPad if you would like. But we pay this company for you to download their app, and you'll sign in as being part of UAB, and you can create bookshelves like this of either your favorite journals, or when you go on your rotations, maybe the ones the residents tell you you should read every month on your particular rotation. And you can click on this, it'll open the table of content. You can also look at old things, but basically it's an alerting system. Open the table of contents, find an article you want to read, click. You don't see article linker, you see nothing. PDF opens, you can read it, you can send it to yourself by email, upload it to EndNote, anything you like. And it's a really exciting app. I encourage you to download it and play with it, especially if you're in a postdoc program, because I'm sure you have journals you try to keep up with. You get little notifications if there's new content. You can see those red notifications. And we anticipate a web-based version of that coming out this fall. We've already decided for that.
So just a quick question about the EndNote thing. So what we've historically done is kept PDF libraries of all the papers that are relevant to our work. Are you suggesting that it may be easier just to keep that all in an EndNote library?
I think so. Personally, I think so. The problem will be depending on where you want to store it, because if it's a shared library, there's some problems if you use a shared network drive. You either have to let people only read, they can all read them at any time, but you can't do read-write access very well. I can send you information on all this sharing.
That'd be great, because the problem we have with EndNote is that periodically it comes up Word, and I'm worried about the size, whether both with the sharing and also with whether it's going to get constipated with too many publications.
It'll handle a huge library, and you can put them in groups, like you had different PDF libraries.
Really?
So you can create groups. If you want to have a talk afterwards or set up a thing, I can kind of show you that. There's also some sharing features that I'm showing. People on campus, it would require a lab computer or something, and then you can share with 15 people, and I've got several people really excited about that.
Well, that might be a nice secondary topic. Could you work a lot with EndNote then?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because that's, for our research grants, that's a lifesaver, but there's some slight inefficiencies with it. But
Yeah, and setting it up properly is huge. So yeah, you have my email, or I can give you a card afterwards and we can talk about it. That'd be
well,
great.
that might be a good topic for like our cake club.
Okay.
The tiers. I think that could really be good.
Okay, and that's just reminding you. Okay, so now we're going to talk a bit about PubMed. And because of time, we're not going to be able to do everything I'd like to do. But what I do want to tell you about is that PubMed is built using controlled vocabulary, as are almost all the databases that have names that include abstract, like CINAHL and IPA and things like that. I'm not going to read these slides, but the important thing here is there are 5,600 journals that are actually indexed for Medline, and PubMed has some content in there, and some very good content that's not in that group. I'll show you what that means going forward. It is funded by the government. It's free for all. So yeah, you can get PubMed citations on Google Scholar and Google, but you don't have the specificity to look for what you need in the way you do using PubMed. So this is what a PubMed record looks like. So in something like Google or other search engines, they go out, they read everything they have about a document, and then they use their algorithm to bring it to the top. And they do a good job of relevance. In PubMed, you're searching for record. So this is all they're searching. The full text is located elsewhere on another server. So it's very important. You can see if this is all they did, it would be really hard to find stuff, right? So what happens is at the National Library of Medicine, some other databases do it automatically, but they still have a human being read every paper. And that human being says, this paper is talking about something and they call it heart attack. This paper is talking about something, they call it myocardial infarction. Let's put them all together in one group so everybody can get that, no matter if it's misspelled or it's European spelling or two very different words. We will call that myocardial infarction, and that will be a subject heading, and that's all MESH is. So if you click here, you can see the terms that were assigned to this article. So it was HIV infections and kidney failure, treatment outcome. If you put any of those terms in, this article will come up. And what makes PubMed special and different from many of the other databases is it includes what's called automatic mapping. So it looks at what you put in, and it says, it translates, like if I put in breast cancer, they'll search that as a keyword, but then they will also search it as the MESH term, which is breast neoplasms. So when I put in breast cancer, I get neoplasms, tumors, all that kind of stuff coming up. So if you do a great PubMed search, probably you mapped well. If you do a bad PubMed search, probably it wasn't mapped well if you don't get enough stuff. So I'm going to show you when we go on quickly how you can look at your search and how you can narrow it. They also have substances, by the way, and a term called pharmacological action, that when you get maps to that as well. So if you put in Prozac, it'll bring up everything in that same antidepressant category for you and include those in the search, which is useful most of the time. So, but if you don't want that, you'll have to go in and take it out. Okay, so I'm going to go right in online here to PubMed. And my search is going to be pharmacogenomics, assuming I spell it. And heart failure, or treatment, I think I put in. And heart disease. So you can put your terms in. I will retype it if it doesn't find it. PubMed has a good spell checker. And you don't really need to put ands between your concepts. What you don't ever want to do is put quotes or asterisks because it turns off automatic mapping. And so I got 627 results. Briefly, I'm going to show you, if you didn't know this, PubMed now has a relevance sort. A lot of people like that. But 620 is too many, I think. So what I want to do first is show you how you see what you searched. You go down here to the right-hand side of the page and look at search details. And I always do this first. And you can see here for heart disease, you got the MESH terms and keyword searches. Pharmacogenomics brought up pharmacogenetics, which is the actual MESH term, and also searched for pharmacogenomics for me. And treatment searched as a subheading, which is something that I wanted, as therapy, and then also treatment. So this is going to be a very broad search, but it is going to bring in all the articles, so you know that. If you didn't want some of those things, you can just delete them out here and rerun your search. So with this, you now may want to start doing some filtering. And over here are the types of things you can filter for. I can go in and add things like ages for particular patients, species, languages, etc. I can go up here, and for evidence-based medicine, I can add things like clinical trials, RCTs, and then there are a lot of different things you can add for outcomes. And I can show you where to find those later. But if you do that, you're only going to get the articles that are actually indexed, and you won't get anything else. So over here on the right, we've added some filters if you're in our version with the article linker. So you can go to English right away and things that we actually have in full text. Very useful for students, not for research, but if you need a paper for tomorrow, there it is. But right here, this is only the ones with index terms, and librarians use that a lot, but these are the articles that have not been indexed. So before you do your filters, you'll want to run through these real quick and see if they're important. you can go ahead and send them to a clipboard so that you don't lose them. And they will be online as long as you're in your browser section. And then you can go put on any kinds of these filters you want to get your result list down. So if you're looking at systematic reviews, you probably don't want one older than 5 years that's out of date. Maybe you want RCTs, maybe you want only papers on treatment outcome, and you're going to want to add treatment outcome at the top, just like you would at Google. But basically, that's how you do those kinds of things. What I also want to just show you, we're not going to look at it, if you click on Create Alert, you'll be asked to make a MyNCBI account, just like every database, you have to have your own account. But then it will save your search, so you can rerun it. If you spend some time on it, that's useful, and send you an alert every time a new article is added. So this is very good for summer research, and very good for a postdoc who's writing a thesis or writing a paper. So I did want to show you those things. Does anybody have any questions about that?
So things that have not been meshed, or that are without mesh, does that mean they haven't been meshed yet? Or is that either too specific to
Okay, so there are two, that's a very good question. Most of them have been added by the publisher and they're still waiting to be read, or they're e-print articles and they can be up there for 6 months before they're finally published and then read. But also, if anybody funds a study using NIH money, they are required to put it in a repository called PubMed Central so the public can read it and they become available within a year. So somebody that publishes in a non-PubMed journal, they still get to have their article in PubMed. There's a lot of good studies that have been published, maybe in new journals or foreign journals that are not in those 5,800 journals. So, it's worth it this time. There's 23 of those, so it's probably worth looking at. They're mostly newer. Nothing older than 2008 when that law took effect. Okay, so if any of you want to see, I'm not going to do very much with this. There's another way to search to really narrow your field, and that's to do mesh. And I'm just going to go up here and show you it real quickly. There's a great video on the PubMed guide. So I'm just going to search the mesh database, which is just a database of all those terms. For stroke. And so this morning or yesterday I looked for drug therapy for stroke and have 45,000 results. No matter what you do, you can't live with 45,000 results. So if I go here to the mesh database and look up stroke, the first thing I'm going to show you is a hierarchy. So if this was your topic, you could either do stroke or maybe you'd rather do brain infarction or whatever this stroke is. But let's assume you wanted all of stroke. I can come back up here at the top and I can pull out only those subset of articles that talk about drug therapy. Then I can restrict it only to those articles that the indexer said the main focus of the article was drug therapy for stroke. With 45,000, you don't need to see an article who mentions it for half an hour when they're talking about other kinds of drugs. Then this part is just it's clunky interface, so you have to add it here and search PubMed. Now, if I wanted to add treatment outcome, I could go in there to mesh, do treatment outcome, and then add it to that box and search. I generally like to build my concepts separately. So now I'm down to 6886, which is now something you can work with. And if you add treatment outcome or something, you'll get it even more. You don't have to go back to mesh. You can just add treatment outcome up there and let it not go there.
Sorry, how did we get to the one where you could add mesh terms?
Okay, I went up here. There are a couple different ways. My favorite, because I'm usually in PubMed, is to just swap that the first time you do it, and then it'll take you to the mesh database. And then I click on search. Oh, that's because I did a whole bunch of other things. So if I just did stroke. search. And then there's all these different things that are stroked. Generally, the one you want is near the top, unless you're really way off in your guess. But you go down and pick whichever one you want. And then once you do that, you just click on this to get that great hierarchy to broaden or narrow. And then these are all you can see. If I did epidemiology, it would be a whole different set of papers. And it's just a really quick way to narrow. But remember, when you do this, you're not seeing those newer ones. So I counsel people maybe look at the broad search and just look at the newer ones real quick first, and then come in and do this. And sometimes you don't even care about those newer ones. Okay, very quick. So I'm going to skip through all these slides that just kind of tell you what we just talked about and talk briefly about Embase. And I do want to show you this, but we're not going to spend a lot of time on it. Embase is our newest database. In fact, we are still learning to appreciate it. When I show it to people, people are loving it. It is the Elsevier PubMed, but it doesn't just include Elsevier articles, but they have a lot of money, so they put a lot of money into making this a very smooth process. And they also include 2,700 journals not included in PubMed. It's considered a gold standard for systematic reviews. If any of you are looking for those or actually work on one during the course of your career, because it includes so much content that's not in the United States. So the perception is you get biased by only United States content because we don't typically do a good job of reporting negative results. And when you're trying to find a treatment intervention, you really need to see positive and negative. And that worldwide, there are some differences in approaches to any kind of intervention. The perception is maybe you'll see a little bit more complementary and alternative things with Embase. So if you're going to do any of those things, you might want to use it. And so I'm going to go in and just show you a real quick search and what else is available because of time. Here's the home page, and let me show you forms while we're here. This is where you get to my guide. This is where you get to the forms to request things. So Embase is here. And let's see what I searched. Parkinson's disease and drug therapy and treatment outcomes. So we'll just type those in. So in Embase, you have to use quotes or single quotes. And you use and. So all phrases are in quotes in Embase. And when you're in the quick search, you have the option of searching as broadly as possible, which I recommend. And, oh, that. Whoops. There we go.
No space.
Oh, I need a space here. Yeah, don't I? Thank you. There we go. It does require syntax. And I got 5,000 results here, which you would expect. That was a pretty broad search. I'm going to show you quickly. It starts to build your history here. So do concepts individually, and you can combine them. Up here are some filters you can put on the whole search. Let's see if we can make this guy go away. So you can do things like change your mapping choices and decide not to do all of them or whatever. Okay. So you'll see up here that it took this. When it says explode, it means it went in and mapped it to the mesh term, its term. It's called entry term put everything under it on the tree and everything. So it did all the mapping kind of stuff that PubMed does. Over here is a series of filters of your results. It's not going to rerun your search. So for example, if I only want to see drug therapy with levodopa or salicylamine or whatever, I can just click on that and immediately get that subset. This is fun to play with because if you're looking for outcomes, you're going to see all these entry terms for various kinds of outcomes like mortality or something like that. And the other thing I want to show you over here, which is what you really want to see, this is a very phony Venn diagram because this little overlap is 2,300. 2,300, and this one is 689. But if you click on the one that says Embase only and apply, you will get only those articles that were not in that line. So if you started with PubMed and want to see what the rest of the, you can just go right there that quickly and up they'll come. Last thing I want to show you is you have a variety of places to start. They're particularly good with medical devices and also drug search. So if I go here, it's going to give me a different search with all sorts of things that we don't have in PubMed, like drug groups and things like that. So depending on your need, you can do far more specific searches a little bit easier than PubMed. Any questions about that? And I didn't show you the, if you have a choice of relevance or date sort, which you can figure out also. You can also go to Entry under Browse and initiate a search just like you did in Mesh. Exactly the same. It's a hierarchy and you can search from there. It's under Browse. And we have on the documentation by the box examples of each kind of search in this short video for you to watch. So these are just all those things. Okay, the last thing we're going to talk about is Scopus. Have any of you used Scopus? Okay, so Scopus works differently. Scopus is a large interdisciplinary database, 21,000 journals compared to 5,800 and 7,300. And what it brings in is social science, which is why it's a really good place for you to do if you're doing stuff on human behavior, very strong social science components and business components, engineering components. So if you're getting involved in interdisciplinary research and with bioengineering or things like that. So it works very differently though. This is why this is why you use it. That's the content. But the special thing about it is it includes the reference lists and the forward citations to all the articles in it. It started with the forward citations just from 1996 on. They are retro adding, I think they're back in the mid 80s and they're going to go back even further to 70. So I'll show you how useful that is in identifying a seminal article on your topic or something that's really hot. And so you would use it to rank your results. That's 5 times cited to find those things out. And there are some analytics there that will help you find journals to publish your work in. And of course, anybody who's publishing, those of you, well, actually, medical students may publish by the end of your career, to see who's citing your work and set alert to see every time somebody cites it, you can do that there. So this is what the record in Scopus looks like. It's a really complicated record. And Scopus searches this record by keyword, so it doesn't go into the full text. So they help you out a lot because most authors will put keywords for important things in their field. So you search with keywords. If nursing calls it something, you put that in. And then they also put in major entry terms and major mesh terms. So if you happen to know it was breast neoplasms, you just go ahead and put that in. And down here is where the references are. So if you find a great article, you know how you always look at the reference list? You can do it all online here. And then there is an article linker right up there at the top, so you can download those reference articles if you want to. And over here is where you can see who's citing this article. So 18 people have put it in their bibliographies since it was written, and you can set a citation alert if this is your article right here. And every time somebody cites it, you'll be notified. If you're starting a major research project, that's very important. If it's your paper and somebody is taking your work and going in a different direction or the same direction, it's a potential collaborator and a potential competitor. So you really do want to have a sense of how your work is being interpreted. And if they support your results or find something negative or different, you also want to know that. So this is an important database for this and for interdisciplinary research. I think I have time to just show you the source. Let me see what I did. So, and a basic search, just without going into a lot of detail. So I'm going to go ahead and go into Scopus. In Scopus, because it's a keyword search, you have to take care of any kind of language variations and use as many synonyms as you can. So in this search, I'm going to search for cardiovascular effects of chocolate. So on my first line, I probably would do something like my first time through chocolate or this keyboard is really sensitive. I would do chocolate or cacao or both probably. And then as you read and see keywords in your paper, you can come back and continue to add them. And then I would do cardiovascular. And maybe effects or benefits. Something like that will give you an idea. You can use asterisks. You can use a single question mark for a foreign language variation in the middle of the word. And you can also use quotes around your, and should use quotes around your phrases in Scopus. So I'm just going to pull that up.
Is the asterisk just like a wild card?
Yeah, an asterisk is a wild card, just like you would use it in Google or other databases, EBSCO if you use it. And it can be used at the front of the word or the end of the word. So it's very helpful, but if you get a bunch of scattered, sometimes you don't realize that that term you truncated is a huge word in engineering, and suddenly you get a bunch of stuff, so you have to use it judiciously. It automatically handles plurals. And it does a really good job, like child and children, and it does a good job on plurals. So here I have 457 results. On this side, you'll see some wonderful filters that you can use to make things be different. At the top, you can experiment with those. At the top, if you started realizing, oh, I only want candy or I only want teenagers, you can add stuff there. But over here is where you can sort, and it's currently, let's see, on a relevance sort, I think. So let me see, I'm having trouble reading that.
It's on date to date, yeah.
Is it on, yeah, it's on a relevance sort. No, it's sorted by date.
Mm-hmm.
So I typically look at the newest stuff first, just to make sure I didn't miss something important and new. And then the relevance I'm not going to show you. It's slightly different from PubMed's relevance sort, as is Embase. So they all sort differently. That's relevance. And then you have the choice of this cited by sort. And this is very useful because this article that came out, it looks like it was in 2005, got 950 citations. So if this is your topic and you're going to go present a poster on it, you probably want to know that article existed. You may not use it, but somebody might come up and ask you how your results are different from said article. And it drops from that one to 449. And these are all fairly recent, so these are all within the last 10 years. So that's how you find the seminal articles on the topic. And so when you're in your date sort, if you see, most of them have 0, right? Suddenly you see 50 or 75 or 100, you then will be able to see what looks like it's really hot. Now, I don't know whether this one will have it. On some of the articles, on the right-hand side, if you click on it, you can get related articles here. They have this little alt metric thing, that has to do with the attention that an article is getting. So they count the number of tweeters, they look at if they're in F1000, they look at all these things, how many people are saving it to Mendeley. So if you see a new article, or your article, it may be too new for somebody to write a whole paper and cite it, but you may see that it's getting some attention over here, which is kind of cool. It's not in. Okay, so any questions about Scopus? It's really intuitive. If you go in just like Embase, I don't think you'd have any trouble using it.
Scopus has so many, you said it has so many more journals.
It does.
Does it have, for the most part, what the others that are smaller have? Does it encompass all of that plus more, or is
Yes, it includes
different?
It includes all of Medline.
Okay.
So it does have all of Medline. When I was going to actually, if I can get back out, if I still have that down here. Yeah, I'm going to show you one more thing in here that's kind of cool. But if you, like I've compared a PsycInfo, and I get almost 100% overlap with PsycInfo. I would tell you if you had a psychological study, start here and go make sure. And similarly, it doesn't cover everything the business database covers, but it covers some. CINAHL, nursing is interesting because CINAHL has some unique content, but it doesn't cover everything. It has a small subset of journals, so you'll find nursing journals and also the social sciences context that maybe from social, whatever it is, abstract, things like that. But it is 100% Medline coverage, just not those journals that aren't in Medline. The other thing that it does that's really cool, let me see if I can get to the top of the page, is it does have an analyze feature. And again, we won't look at it very closely, but to get back to the results list. When I go into analyze search results, it is going to give me a way to look at my documents so you can see if you're, this is something you're looking at because you're thinking about studying it or doing a paper on it. Those of you who are, this will let you see how it's trending. And this will let you see the major journals that it publishes in. So if you were going to write a paper, want to get a sense, particularly if you're trying to go outside your general known discipline and you want, like you do diabetes and art, and you always publish in diabetes journals, but you think what you have to say should be read by an audience for a heart journal, you can go down here and look at all the heart journals and see which ones are publishing on your topic. So there's some other things in here that are kind of interesting, but that in particular, I think is interesting. You can also see authors and affiliations if you are looking for collaborators or looking to look at another institution, maybe do a postdoc, see who is publishing on your research. You probably know it, but maybe you'll find a few people you weren't aware of. So that's Scopus. So the last thing I was going to show you, we aren't going to look at it in any detail, you can have the slides, is just that there is a place to find out the all-important journal impact factor. And people sometimes are asked to find that out when they're trying to figure out where to publish. So you may all deal with this. So all you do is go to our databases page, look at JCR Web, decide if you want to look at a whole field like cell biology and you want to see what the top ones are, the mid-level. Your mentor says, you know, I think we should go for a mid-level journal. You can do that there, and you can get all sorts of metrics that come out. This is the one that shows you the quartile of the journal. So again, it's very intuitive. The most important thing is to remember what it is, and it's there. And we get probably at least 2 or 3 questions a week from our chat box with people on the databases page, and they say, I can't remember what the, and we just give them. So just be aware it's there, and if you need it, contact me, go ask the library. And that's what you can get. Does anybody have questions at all or want to see anything else?
It's way from what PubMed excluded. For example, I've seen some articles written by the same authors, same topic, that they're publishing in journals.
Yeah, that's very rare, and you can't eliminate them in PubMed. You have to Well, you won't eliminate them unless you do it manually, even in Excel or EndNote, because they are different articles. But the only thing that happens because it's against all the publication ethics, except for a situation when it's a major guideline or something really major. Typically, it's a consensus panel guideline or a major treatment-based guideline, and they want to get the word out quickly. So they publish it in 3 or 4 areas of that you know, that you would, if you were searching in cardiovascular, you were searching in nutrition, you would get it, and so it's very rare. And it is always the same article, so sometimes you can get it free one way and not another way. So yeah, no, PubMed doesn't deduplicate. Scopus, you can exclude deadline records. I showed you how to do it in Embase, and Scopus, it's a bit of code, and it's on our Scopus guide. And in Civil, you can exclude PubMed records, which you can't exclude CINAHL records from PubMed, but that's just on your basic limits page. You probably found that. So a little dangerous if you're doing something really comprehensive because they all search differently. But if you do a really good PubMed search, it's probably fine to do that. Because you can reduce Scopus results from 700 to 150 or 50 million. Any other questions?
Our 3rd and 4th year of pharmacy school, we used to do what we call journal clubs, where we had to like find an article and talk about it and present it. We watched a few and we talked about the impact factors, but I didn't know like what was a good score and what was not. Like, what do you look for when you look at the impact factors?
That is an excellent question, and it's a source of a lot of controversy in medicine. People don't like impact factors very well, but basically, the reason it's problematic is because it varies across discipline. So the best thing you can do on your article is to get that little thing, and it'll tell you where it fits. So we had somebody that publishes in palliative care, and to get credit in her department, you had to be publishing in journals with impact factors greater than 8 or something ridiculous, and there was only one in the entire range. So by showing these things, she included that this is a very specific area. So OBGYN may have 2 journals that are at the level of 10 and everything else lower, where anything that publishes a lot of reviews or JAMA or, you know, some, I think Cell Cancer Cell, anything with a lot of reviews, they may be at 50 or 60, but you still might be at the upper quartile of 10 in that group and top of another group. So I would recommend looking at that, and then making your decision.
I mean, typical benchmark is the New England Journal for sort of the upper tier, and then often looking at your sort of favorite specialty journal if you're in cancer or cardiology and sort of comparing the range. And as you're suggesting, you know, having sat with a number of editors of major journals at various specialty society meetings, it's really easy to game it. And a lot of the journal editors are trying to figure out how they can bring their impact factor up above their competitor journal by publishing more reviews or a guideline or something that's going to be very heavily cited to be the top journal in that specialty. So there's some things that go on that aren't particularly becoming, but often do affect this, and then they can claim they have the highest impact factor in their field.
Right, and they, this year, CER, I think, suppressed a larger number than they have in the past. They do suppress some of it, but that's one of the biggest problems. I meant to tell you, you do not have Scopus at Auburn, but you have Web of Science, which works exactly the same way. Slightly different content, but everything you can do in Scopus and more you can do in Web of Science. Scopus offers some interesting other metrics that are supposed to not be as obvious for gaming and include more nursing journals. They just aren't standardized, and so you're still going to be asked for that impact factor, even though it isn't a very fair thing. Yeah, so that was a very good question. Do you have faculty of 1,000? I can talk about it here. Okay, here at UAB we do have it, and It's over on the right-hand side where I said Medline. There's a little thing that says faculty of 1,000. That's a database in which people all over the world, the 1,000 is supposed to be the top faculty in that specialty. There are quite a few people who participate here anyway. And they read an article when they're doing their professional reading and say, wow, this is cool. This is something, 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 or something. They recommend it. So that's a really good tool for choosing something for the journal club. So you can find out if your campus has it. And it's much easier if it's just in PubMed than if you go back to the database. But and so any of you that are looking at a big PubMed list and see that, click on it and see if those articles are of interest. And then you can read what it is. There's a short paragraph about what it is that this person who recommended it thought was important.
And where does that show up?
It shows up
in your
in
PubMed
PubMed.
search?
It shows up on the right-hand filters in PubMed. Let's see. So over here, out of these 231,000, I think it's 234 are F1000. Because this is such a huge search, usually there's just 3 or 4. And then when you open this up, you'll see the recommendations. It's an interesting article because of this. Changes clinical paths. There's a new finding, etc. So this is a very detailed one. Sometimes they're smaller. So usually if you're doing a reasonable search, only 600, you may have 5 articles there. And one of them might be on topic, and that's a good way to look at finding journal club articles, because you get a sense of what at least this person thought was important. And you still have to do your work, but it helps.
All very good questions. I hope this has been helpful. Is there anything else you all, Lee's going to join us for lunch? There's lunch available in the back.
Actually, I think I'm not going to join you for lunch. Darn. I would have liked to, but I have
But if there's any other questions, this is the time, or Lee is fabulous to contact. Thank you very much.
Is there anything comparable to this as well? I'm going to be down there for the library.
In your 3rd and 4th year, you have access to our resources and their resources, and you log in with your Blazer ID. They definitely have up to date. I'm not sure if they added Dynamed or not right on campus, but you can get. I'm thinking that Tuscaloosa has. I don't remember if they have Web of Science or Scopus. They went back and forth. I'm pretty sure they have Web of Science, which is awesome for you because you get both. But you can get in, you'll use your Blazer ID, you'll still be able to get into our resources because you're still our student and their student. They have a very nice library supporting their program there, and a librarian who's very, very helpful.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
Pauline and Michelle, you all are welcome to join us. There's pizza in there. You're welcome to grab a piece of pizza. Have a seat or walk and eat. It is up to you. We want to provide lunch to make this a little easier for folks. So please help yourself. Dr. Stack, you have anything?
No, that was great. Thank you. We'd like to have you back to talk with our fellows and junior faculty on the EndNote issue.
Sure.
I think that would really be terrific
Sure.
to drill down a little deeper into that for doing research grants.